This video is going to be dedicated for the study plan for the SAT. So how can we boost your score to the maximum amount of points that you can possibly get? This is what we're going to go over in this lecture. So the best way to study is actually called active studying. So the best way to go through these videos isn't like Netflix, right? If you watch Netflix, it's very passive. But anytime you see any of the problems that I do, they're actually real SAT problems. The best thing to do is actually to pause the video. So before I even explain how these problems work, go ahead and pause the video. Because if you pause the video, you're going to be doing something called active learning. You're going to go and try the problems out yourself. And the best way to learn is actually to learn through mistakes. They say that if you make a mistake and you learn from it, you're actually 3 times more likely to remember it and to learn it long term than if you never made the mistake at all. So anytime you're going through these videos, go ahead and pause the video, try it out yourself, and then see the explanation afterwards. The second thing to do is to take notes. When you take notes, you're physically writing it down. And when you're actually taking notes, the act of physically writing something down actually improves your memory retention of that problem. And that's actually the best way to learn is that handwriting is actually highly correlated with learning. The third thing you should do is actually to do 10 problems a day. Do it from the Blue Book. So if you do 10 problems a day, in a week you would have done 70 math problems. In a month you would have done 280 problems. And if you're able to do 280 problems, you have already completed half the math SAT book. And in 2 months, you would have completed nearly the entire book. And the more practice problems you do, you actually start to recognize a pattern. And that pattern is that these problems aren't all completely random. The SAT actually uses the same problems over and over again. The only difference is that they just put down different numbers. But these problems are actually all about the same. The fourth thing is once you get good at these problems, once you start recognizing the patterns, have a timer. Each problem should only take about 1.5 minutes because that's about the amount of time you have per problem. So have a timer, time it about 1.5 minutes, and all these problems should be able to be done in 1.5 minutes. Step number 5 is use the Blue Book or the Black Book to look for explanations. So if something doesn't make sense, the Blue Book actually has explanations for all the problems. I actually prefer the Black Book for the explanations because they actually give you 3 ways to do almost every single problem. And their explanations are usually more clear, but if you don't want to buy the Black Book, then just use the Blue Book's explanations. Or you can go on the SAT website and they'll actually have the explanations also. And the most important thing is to take practice exams. So these exams are actually really long, right? They're actually about 4 hours long, including the breaks. Without the breaks, they're about 3 hours long, depending if you're taking the essays or not. So the hardest part is actually having mental stamina. After 3 to 4 hours, your brain is naturally going to be tired. And so the way to practice this is to take these practice exams and to actually have a timer and to practice it in real situations. Because if you're used to practicing your mental stamina for 3 to 4 hours every single week, by the time you get to the real exam, your mental stamina is there and you won't be mentally tired. So one of the best things you can do is to take practice exams. So the key is to practice, practice, practice. If you can continue practicing, by the time you get to the real exam, you'll be prepared. And if you'll be prepared, you can get the best possible score for what you're aiming for.